right, I think we are getting ready to go. Hello, happy Saturday, everyone. Glad you're all here. Glad you could make it. And we're just going to get people a chance to come on in, and then we will go ahead and get started. And just taking a couple of moments to some final technical touch up type things. So, just want to make sure we've got everything ready. And well, let's see here. All right. So I'm glad you all could make it. I know out here in the West Valley of Phoenix, Arizona, the weather is pretty good for December. We have almost 70 degrees, and I can't even think to see a cloud in the sky. I hope you're having similar weather where you are. I know some of you are close, others maybe not so much. So I apologize for your weather, even though it's not my fault. But it's the reason why we moved here to Arizona almost 10 years ago. So anyway, we're going to be talking today about the topic of the title, excuse me, of the workshop is called People Are Lying to You and It's Costing You a Fortune. That's a pretty bold statement. However, I think that once you've gone through this workshop and you've actually done the exercises, which hopefully you've prepared for, because if you've got the information ready, which you should have received a link to download what was called a pre-workshop preparation pack. Hopefully you got a chance to get that done. If you didn't, and you have a decent idea of what the numbers would be, I want to encourage you to go with at least what you think your numbers are. Now, if you do have your preparation pack all completed, then kudos for you. You're going to get pretty darn good projections and results from the things we're going to do together today. If you don't have that information ready, don't sweat it. Just put some numbers in that you're pretty confident in. You'll see as we walk through the exercises just exactly what you're up against, because that's really what this is all about. The whole idea that people are lying to you and it's costing you a fortune is based on the fact that what you think is going on in your personal finances isn't necessarily the truth. What's going on in your personal finances is in many cases much different and much more prevalent with regard to how it's impacting your future, and it's not impacting it in a positive way. But we're here to change that today, and I'm looking forward to helping you through that. Let me just go through a couple of quick things. First of all, we're going to discuss the format of our workshop. We're going to watch a video, and then after each video, we're going to go through some talking points and then through some exercises, and then we're going to go through another video. There are 3 videos in total. The first video is called The Coalition of Four. The second one is called The More Money Myth. And the third one is called The Stock Market Myth. And each video will kind of peel back layers of an onion to your personal finances that you may not have ever even realized before. So in any event, I believe you're going to get a lot out of it. I hope you do. And a couple other things is that if you stick with me until the end of the workshop, I have 2 bonuses for you. Not 1, but 2. 2 bonuses. One is called The Banker's Secret to Permanent Family Wealth, the ebook, and the other is the ebook Great Credit for a Lifetime. 2 books, one written by John Commuta, my business partner, the other one written by yours truly. And I think those will also help you get a good idea of what your personal finances are all about and how you can achieve the type of outcome with your personal finances that you've always had in mind. Because chances are, when it comes to the whole idea of who's lying to you and what it's costing you, what's most likely taking place is that every month you've got thousands of dollars flowing into your checking account when you get paid. And every month, thousands flow out of your checking account when you pay your bills, whether you pay them online or with, checks. I mean, I don't think I've written a check I can't remember the last time I wrote a check, but everything is digital. It's all from your phone. And every month, thousands of dollars flow through your checking account. Every year, tens of thousands. If you think back on the last 5 or 10 years, you have had a small fortune of your personally generated wealth flow through your fingertips. And if you're like most people, there really isn't much to show for it. And it's all because You are trapped in this idea that you have bills to pay, and this is just as good as it gets. Good news is we're going to change that for you today. So make sure you stick around. Also, if you don't have Excel, because as we work through some of the exercises, all of the exercises are based on Excel spreadsheets that have formulas already built into them. So all you have to do is enter some information and generate the outcomes that will give you insight into your personal finances you may never have had before. If you don't have Excel, don't worry, because when we're done with our workshop today, I'm going to have an alternative for you. You should still stick around, though, because the information is really what's going to help you create a paradigm shift inside the space between your ears when it comes to your personal finances. It's a paradigm shift you desperately need to take. So having said all of that, we're going to go ahead and start with our first video. The first video is called The Coalition of Four. And let me just prep this quickly. And we'll get this all wrapped up and ready to go. All righty. And we want to share our screen. And let's get her started.
What would $5,000, $10,000, or even $20,000 more spendable income every year mean for you and your family? How much financial stress would that relieve? How much peace of mind would that provide?
Sure, you may have fantasized about hitting the lottery and what kind of difference those millions could make, but we're not talking about fantasy here. What we are talking about are genuine and realistic personal finance steps that you could be taking right now that are virtually guaranteed to improve and enhance your financial life.
These are the same steps that we've taught to over 3 million people over the last 2.5 decades. The same steps that have changed their lives and resulted in many of them asking us questions like, why weren't we ever taught this stuff in school? Or making comments like, I never realized it would be so easy to understand. Hi, I'm John Commuta.
And I'm Anthony Manganello. We've spent most of our adult lives teaching people the truth about money, like how they can become debt-free and build wealth with the money they're already making. Most people are losing hundreds, even thousands of dollars every month to interest payments alone. And when you're losing that kind of money every month, it's impossible to achieve any meaningful financial goals.
We've shown literally millions of people how to transform their debts into wealth and completely turn their financial lives around. And now, in this short video series called People Are Lying to You and It's Costing You a Fortune, we're going to show you 3 simple but powerful secrets that will help you begin to experience the same transformation. When it comes to your money, if you're following conventional and traditional financial advice, there's a 92% chance you're doing the wrong things with your money. And I didn't make that statistic up. That's according to a recent study by the National Institute on Retirement Security.
Now consider this. Think about how much money you've brought home in net income over the past 10 years. How much does that add up to? According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median household income is $57,616 a year. At a 20% tax bracket, this average household's net take-home pay over the past 10 years would have been $460,928.
That's almost $500,000.
It's crazy.
What are your numbers? Just multiply your household's net monthly take-home income by 120 to get you 10 years worth. Mm-hmm. And of those hundreds of thousands of dollars that you've already had flow through your hands, how much have you held on to?
Yeah, the answer to that question is probably safe to say, not much.
But here's the good news. You're about to discover how to make the next 10 years very different from the past 10 years. In this short 3-video series, you're going to learn 3 stunning secrets about what's quietly being done to you and your money.
In this first video, we're going to shed light on secret number 1 by pulling back the curtain on an alliance of industries who are literally brainwashing you into surrendering your wealth directly to them. When you learn how they operate, and how they manipulate thousands and thousands of dollars out of your life, you'll see why you have next to nothing left from the hundreds of thousands of dollars you've already made.
We call this alliance the Coalition of Four. We will show you how they're siphoning away your money so you can break free from them. You'll suddenly see how you've passed hundreds of thousands of dollars through your household over the past decade, but have next to nothing to show for it. They're lying to you and stealing your money.
Over the next 2 videos, we'll reveal 2 coalition myths they've sold you as solutions to recover the money that they're stealing from you month by month. They're like a drug company giving you a disease so they can sell you fake medicine that promises to cure the disease. And actually, when you see how they do it, you just might get a little sick. But we have the real cure, and you can start implementing it today. But let's start by defining and describing the Coalition of Four.
Well, the Coalition of Four are the 4 financial predators that are sucking the financial life out of you. Let's identify who they are and how they leave you at or close to broke, even after you make hundreds of thousands of dollars. The Coalition of Four are the advertising industry, the media, the merchants, and the banks. The advertising industry is made up of some of the cleverest people on the planet. They know how to pull your financial strings and push your emotional buttons. They know how to move you from noticing a new product or service to wanting it, to desiring it, and then to buying it. They construct an emotional assembly line that takes you from just becoming aware of a product or service all the way to excitedly whipping out your wallet and purchasing it. They get you to buy with your emotions rather than with your brain.
Now, the advertising industry is only part of the assembly line. They get help from the media. Movies, TV shows, magazines, websites, and other entertainment and infotainment channels help the advertising industry with things like product placement, celebrity influence, and even peer influence. If you can identify any product in a movie or TV show, that is not a coincidence. If you can recognize that car is an Audi, for instance, or that can of soda is a Pepsi, the advertising industry paid the media to place that product in that show or movie so you will notice it.
They also use celebrity influence to facilitate the noticing of a product. Think about the famous people you've seen endorsing clothes, shoes, insurance companies, whatever product. When you see a celebrity or a professional athlete wearing something or endorsing something, they've been paid to do that. And they've been paid a lot of money because celebrity endorsements and influence work. They move you along the assembly line towards a purchase. As an example, consider this excerpt from an article on automotivenews.com about Audi's deal with the first Iron Man movie in 2008. Quote, "That year was the start of an upward trajectory for Audi, which used the tech-laden R8 model to help reshape how the brand represented itself," according to Lauren Angelo, Director of Marketing for Audi of America. "The Iron Man alignment," he said, "was a key platform in setting the tone."
And did it work? Audi has subsequently been the fastest growing import luxury brand in America, and they wouldn't have continued spending more money for product placement in movies like these if they weren't making way more money by doing it. Now, when the coalition advertising agencies and media team up to flood the market with obvious advertising and more subtle product placements and celebrity influence, they eventually manipulate you or someone you know into buying whatever product or service they're pitching.
And if you buy it, you're owning it, begins influencing people you know to want one. If someone you know buys it, they're owning it, begins influencing you towards liking it, and then wanting it, and then potentially into buying it.
Right.
This campaign by advertisers and the media is a full court press. It's coming against your emotions and against your self-control. It's a 24/7, 365 onslaught of marketing and sales psychology that assaults you day and night. You literally can't get away from it. In fact, they're stalking you through a technology called retargeting or remarketing.
After you've been influenced by advertising and media's full court press, You might go online and look at a product they've caused you to notice to see if you might want to buy it. And let's say you go to Zappos and look at those shoes that caught your attention, or to Amazon to read reviews on that interesting gadget. When you visit Zappos or Amazon websites like these to view the product, something happens that you are completely unaware of. The site you're visiting places code on your web browser that says, Mary just looked at this pair of shoes.
Oh no. Well, now that code just sits there on your computer. This is not a virus. It's a little digital Post-it note.
Yeah.
So you go on about your browsing. Let's say later in the day you go to Facebook or some online news website. All of a sudden, you notice that exact pair of shoes in a little ad right on the side of that website, a website that has no apparent connection with the site where you originally saw the product you were checking out. Well, now you could see that as a message from God that you should buy the shoes or the gadget. But it's really nothing more than retargeting technology designed to take advantage of your impulse to buy something you're already interested in.
The marketing process the Coalition of Four is taking you through is called AIDA. AIDA stands for Attention, Interest, Desire, and Action. And when the advertisers and the media get you to notice a product, they have your attention or awareness. That's the A in AIDA. Then the celebrity or the peer influence begin to generate interest, and that's the I in AIDA. A few more exposures then get you to desire the product. There's the D. And finally, all the sensory assaults wear you down until you eventually take action. The final A in AIDA, and you surrender and you buy it.
You've not so much been a weakling here, but more of a victim to a highly coordinated campaign against your common sense and willpower. That's how the advertising industry and media do their part for the coalition. Now let's talk about the merchants. You might think the merchants are the drivers of the Coalition of Four, the stores, the people that sell stuff. But their job is simply to come up with more stuff for the advertisers and media to manipulate you into buying, even if it's just recycled old stuff from years ago. Obvious examples of that are these rehashed gadgets and trivia you see in the weekend infomercials, or those TV ads that end with, "But wait, if you call in the next 10 minutes, we'll send you 2 of those worthless vegetable choppers." Because the advertising industry and media are so good at manipulating you to buy, the merchants just keep stocking the shelves with new stuff or recycled old stuff for you to buy.
Over time, the advertisers, media, and merchants seduce you into spending every discretionary dollar you earn on stuff that you wind up cramming into closets and attics and basements, garages and storage lockers, just to make room for the next round of stuff they're going to seduce you into buying. Just take a peek in your closet, your attic, your basement, your garage, your storage locker. How much stuff is in there that at one time you felt you just had to have? And so your monthly income is being used up to pay for your current monthly living expenses and debt payments and all the stuff you bought in all your yesterdays. You obviously can't build wealth for tomorrow or even buy more stuff the coalition is trying to sell you today when your income is being used up paying for today's expenses and yesterday's stuff that you bought on credit.
That's when the banks step in. Poor baby. You don't have any money left each month to buy the new stuff the advertising industry, media, and merchants are making you want? Well, we're going to let you use some of our money for just a small interest charge. It won't hurt. We're here to help you. The banks are the real power brokers behind the Coalition of Four. They provide the financing and cash flow that keep the other 3 coalition members in business, and they provide the financing that allows you to buy more stuff than you can really afford, which then imprisons 34% to 50% and even more of your monthly debt payments as interest charges for stuff they seduced you into buying in the past.
And just take a look at the spreadsheet below. You can download it and you can plug in your own numbers. But in this example, we have a sample family with a mortgage payment, a couple car payments, and a handful of credit card payments. Every month, they're making a total of $1,834.56 in principal and interest payments on their debt at typical interest rates. But when you calculate how much of their $1,834.56 in their total debt payments is being applied to interest, you just might fall off your chair. Out of their $1,800 and change in total debt payments, $1,096.54 is lost to interest. That is almost 60% of their debt payments every month.
Now, that's a typical family. How about you? What percentage of your monthly debt payments do you think you're losing to interest? If you want to know, if you're brave, download the How Much Interest Are You Paying spreadsheet and plug in your own numbers. But be warned, you might need some antidepressants when you do this. This is how the banks work. They're illusionists. They use their coalition partners to distract you with the illusion that you really need all the stuff they shove at you. But then when your income can no longer stretch to buy the next thing you're seduced into wanting, the banks offer to help you get it by focusing you not on the real cost of all the money you'll waste on interest, but rather on the low monthly payments.
Now just think of the last car ad you saw on TV or on the web. What price did they show you? Was it the monthly payment? Of course it was. That's part of the illusion. And you never stop to consider how much you're actually going to be paying for that car over 60 months or more. It will certainly include thousands of interest dollars. And we won't even waste time here on the illusion of the 0% interest financing on cars, but we will explain it to you later.
When you consider that all your interest payments have to be made from your net take-home income, imagine how much gross income you have to generate just to bring home enough to make all those payments. So you're left scratching your head. Look what it did to me. You got to scratch your head searching your budget each month to figure out where all your money is going.
Where's it going?
After a while, you conclude exactly what the coalition banks want you to conclude. That to improve your finances, you're just going to have to make more money.
While it is true that more money is, well, generally a good thing, it's a coalition myth that more money is the escape from the box the coalition of four has trapped you in. We're going to examine the more money myth in the next video.
In the meantime, download the How Much Interest Are You Paying spreadsheet. Plug in your own numbers to see the truth about how many of your monthly debt payment dollars you are forever losing to interest charges. Watch your email box for the next video, and we will see you soon.
See ya. All right. So, how do you feel about that? When I first learned about one of the things that John and I talk about in the video is the way product placement works. And for those of you who might be old enough like me to remember when the movie E.T. came out, most people remember how he basically lured the extraterrestrial into his I think it was his tent. It was with Reese's Pieces. And I believe the story goes that they wanted to use M&Ms, but M&Ms said, no way. Well, Reese's Pieces said, sure, why not? Next thing you know, Reese's Pieces were selling like crazy. And so, when it comes to the way things are working with regard to how the manipulation takes place, what we're trying to say in this video is that the advertisers are manipulating you with a lot of different things that they do. You got to realize, like John said, there's some of the most clever people in the entire world. I mean, there are copywriters making tens of thousands of dollars just to be put on retainer because they're so good. They're so clever, I guess is the only word I could think of to use. They're very clever in getting and pushing your buttons and pulling the strings, like John said in the video, to make you to take action. That whole ADA thing. And then the media provides them the platform for that manipulation to take place, whether it be on television shows, through commercials, whether it be in product placement, like we said before, in movies like the Iron Man example, or whether it be just through, magazine articles and blog posts. I mean, even when you watch YouTube videos, you're seeing, most of the channels are playing commercials. And the merchants, they're just there to be the ones that you are purchasing these products through. But the banks are the ones that get you thinking that you need more money because you've already spent all the money that you have. And so you're not really even aware that this is happening. Hopefully now, this video that we're able to watch gave you a little bit of information that maybe you weren't aware of, especially the way retargeting works. Because retargeting is that little digital post-it note that John talked about, that when you visit any type of website, that it's a digital piece of code that sits on your browser, and there are other websites and other online properties that work with that digital piece of code to present that information to you again. And those are called impressions. Many companies just get paid to give the impression. They don't even care if you purchase the product or not. That's how this stuff works. You could study this stuff for weeks and weeks and weeks and still not really understand it. But the bottom line is you just need to know that it's happening so that you can say, nope, you're not getting away with it again. And so I'd love to know if anybody has any thoughts or questions about what we covered. I do want to give you time to cover that before we get into filling out that how much interest are you paying spreadsheet. But if you feel like you have a question, you can send it in the chat, or if you want to, if you're brave enough and you want to come off mute and unmute yourself by, if you could see your name, you should be able to see your name in a participants list, and click on the little microphone to unmute your microphone and feel free to talk. Would love to hear from you. While we're doing that, I am going to get the link for the how much interest are you paying spreadsheet, and I'm going to post that in the chat box. Let's see here, everyone. Here we go. And you should see in the chat a link where you can download this spreadsheet. Now, I'm going to share my screen again. I want to kind of go through something that you should have, hopefully, you should have received. And wrong window. I got to do a new share. I want to share this information here. This is your preparation package that you should have received after registering for the workshop. It's got the directions in here, and what you'll need for the how much interest are you paying spreadsheet is the information from this document. Okay, if you filled it out, you should have all the information that you need. And the how much interest are you paying spreadsheet is right. If I could find it, what'd I do with it? There it is. It should be right there. Nope, that's the same one. Hold on just a second. Let me pull that up. All right. Thought I had it ready. And there it is. I think this is it. That's the one I want. All right. So let's make sure I share that with you. Okay. All right. So when you enter the information into the how much interest are you paying spreadsheet, you'll need to make sure that you have the original amount borrowed for your the secured debts. That's like your mortgage, your car payments, student loans, things like that that have a fixed dollar amount that you borrowed and you've been making payments on of a specific amount, the same amount every month for a period of time. You put that information right here. You put the original amount borrowed in my example We have $205,000 was the amount borrowed for the home, was a 30-year mortgage, and they are making $1,335 a month payments. And they're on payment number 42 at 6.79% interest rate. Let me explain real quickly what this payment number is. When you're working with a fixed amount like a secured debt, the payment number is going to be important, because what we're after here is, if you've brought your information for the workshop and you're filling out the spreadsheet that you should hopefully be downloading right now, what you're going to want to do is put in the number the payment number that you have, that you're about to make. Now, you might not know for sure. You might be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, I had this car for 2 years, or I've been in this mortgage for 4 years, whatever it might be, or 3 years. That's okay. You can estimate that number. Just understand that the estimation will be based on the number you put in. I should say the outcome that we're looking for will be based on the number you put in here, because secured debts are very specific when it comes to how much interest for the number payment you're in the process of making. You'll notice down here for the credit cards that all you need is the current balance, the current minimum payment, and your current interest rate. And that will show you how much of your dollar amount is applied to interest, when it comes to the payment, and how much of that is a percentage of the payment. So in our example here, what we're looking at is that these are the numbers from my sample family in my book, The Debt-Free Millionaire. This is their information. And if all of this is accurate, the current month that they make payments of $2,575 is 59% plus interest. That means the amount of principal reduction on all of their debt is only 41%, actually a little less than 41%. This is why you're working so hard and feeling like it's so difficult to get ahead. You're thinking, well, I only have a 6.79% mortgage. Well, that month it's costing you 83% in interest. You're thinking you have an 8% car payment. That month it's costing you 24, almost 25% for those 2 car payments. You're thinking you have 18 to 20% interest rates on your credit cards. Guess what? They're costing you almost 50% on average. That means half of what you pay, at least, is being lost to interest. Interest, by the way, is your credit card company's profit. Think about that. Do you think they deserve that money? Okay. I want to stop for a moment or two and see if we have any questions, or if anybody has anything they'd like to share before we get on to the next video. So I'm going to take a sip of my coffee. And if we don't have any other questions, I just want to make sure I covered all I wanted to cover. I think I have. All right. Yes, we are ready to move on. So let me go ahead and get that next video queued up. What we're going to talk about now is the more money myth. And we're going to watch a video, and the more money myth is where you're led to believe that you need to make more money. And what you really have to wrap your brain around is that when you start that quest for more money, that more money isn't necessarily intended to be for you. But we'll talk about more of that when we come back from watching the video. Let me get that started.
Hey, it's John Commuta again.
And Anthony Manganello.
And we're here with the second video in our series, People Are Lying to You, and It's Costing You a Bloomin' Fortune. In our last video, you learned about the Coalition of Four and how they manipulate you into surrendering your wealth to them over time. You make money, they trade you illusions of prosperity for it, and then charge you thousands and thousands of interest dollars over time. And then you hit retirement age, unable to retire. So you continue working until you die. That's the coalition plan for your life. How do you like it?
In this short video, we're going to deal with what happens to you after the Coalition of Four has tied up all your income in monthly debt payments, leaving you feel like you don't make enough money. So at that point, it's only natural for you to think the solution is for you to make more money. It seems reasonable, right?
Yeah. Let's remember the Coalition of Four, through their ongoing advertising and media assault on your emotions, keep you in the vicious cycle of wanting more stuff. But your current income, beyond covering your daily living expenses, is committed to paying for stuff you bought in the past. So you can't buy the new stuff they're making you want. And that leads you to think that you need to, as Tony said, make more money so you can keep buying more stuff.
You know, the more money myth is a trap.
It's a trap.
If you make more money without first learning how to fight the Coalition of Four, you will simply be manipulated into spending it all over again. And you'll end up cramming even more stuff in your closets, your garage, your basement, attic, storage lockers, whatever, to make room for the newer stuff the Coalition will seduce you into buying on monthly payments with interest.
Just think about what happened when you've made more money in the past. Your spending increased, right?
Mhm.
Over a short time, it ramped up to match your new income. So what did you do? You bought a bigger house, you bought a nicer car, and other stuff the Coalition of Four seduced you into believing that a person with your new higher income level deserved.
And the more money you make, the more money lenders are willing to lend you,
Oh.
so you can dig an even bigger crater to bury yourself in. The bottom line is simply that the more money you make, the bigger the Coalition target on your back becomes, and that leads to bigger payments with even bigger interest charges.
Now, these new bigger payments stretch out for years into your future, and you're trapped having to maintain that income level, or your finances will implode. One day you realize you can never stop working because you'll never finish paying for yesterday's stuff.
But consider this, as we told you in the last video, the average household income in America is over $57,000 a year. Over a 40-year working lifetime, after taxes, that's $1,843,712.
Well, how much would that be for you? Just do the math. Multiply your annual take-home household income by 40. Shouldn't that be enough to live on and build wealth?
Should be.
It would be if the Coalition of Four wasn't stealing as much as a third of your take-home pay as interest charges every month. You think you're not making enough money, but you are. It's just that the Coalition is lying to you, and it's costing you a fortune in lost interest charges.
Now let's concentrate on that interest for just a moment. According to credit.com, the average American will pay, get this, $279,002 in interest payments over their lifetime. That's $279,002 in payments made with net after-tax income, which means you'd have to gross about $348,750 just so you could bring home enough to pay the interest charges on all of your debt.
What if that $279,002 went to you instead of to the banks? Not only would that change your life, more than $250,000 here, but it would also be like getting a $350,000 raise in gross pay. Try walking into the office and, excuse me, boss, I'd like another $350,000. Well, since you can do that for yourself, do you still think that making more money is the only solution to your financial situation? You actually have the best, easiest, most certain answer sitting right there in your monthly debt payments.
But the Coalition, they don't want you thinking about that $279,002 in interest they are sucking out of your life. They want to keep misdirecting you and your attention, thinking everything would just be better if I just made a little bit more money. And that is what the Coalition wants you to think, because the more money you make, the more they can take. But what can you actually do about it?
Well, first, you need to completely understand how the Coalition is manipulating you and how you can take control and fight back.
Yeah.
Next, you need to remove the Coalition from your current finances by paying off your debts. And that accomplishes something really powerful. If hundreds of thousands of your debt payment dollars are going to interest charges, you'll be able to redirect those dollars towards building wealth for your future instead of building the coalition's wealth.
In other words, your hard earned income could make you rich rather than the coalition of four. If you downloaded your Calculate Your Debt Payoff worksheet, then you already know how fast you can become completely debt free. But becoming debt free is only half the journey I just outlined. You must also build wealth for your future, or you'll have to continue working until you die just to pay your month to month living expenses.
But what if I told you there was a way to pay off your debts and build wealth with the same dollars at the same time? There is, but let's save that for the next video. Below this video is a link to a spreadsheet that will quickly show you how much monthly money you can redirect back into your life by eliminating your debt payments. So if you feel like you need more money, don't fall for the coalition's version. Do it yourself.
And when you do, you'll see that the effect of a 3% raise or working extra hours, it just pales in comparison to the impact that eliminating your debts can have on your available cash flow and therefore on your wealth building. Remember our average American household with the $57,616 in annual gross income? If they become debt-free, the recovery of their monthly debt payments would be the same as getting a 48% raise in pay. Unlike a pay raise, every dollar of the debt payments you eliminate is after tax, meaning you get the benefit of all 100 pennies of that dollar.
And like he said, this is why making more money or getting a raise from your employer isn't really the answer. Even if you do get a raise, without a change in your money mindset and your money behaviors, the more you make, the bigger your debt payments would become. And the coalition of four would continue seducing you into thinking that you need more money.
The banks use this "I need more money" frustration against you with another illusion. It's the illusion that you can make up for losing debt payment dollars by getting a greater return on your investments, particularly investments in the stock market. But what they don't want you to focus on with this illusion is that the stock market, who's it controlled by? It's really controlled by investment banks. The banks are everywhere. And in our next video, you'll discover how the coalition of four's stock market myth leaves you disillusioned. But that's okay. It just means you'll be losing your illusions.
You can't miss the next video, especially if you're counting on a 401k, IRA, 403b, 457, or any other IRS combination of the alphabet and numbers. We'll be replacing the coalition's illusions with real solutions. And we'll see you there.
All right. One of the things that people get trapped into thinking, as we've said, the whole more money myth idea is basically a trap, was that they think that the more money that they make is going to benefit them. Now, don't get me wrong, it does have a benefit, but the real benefit is, as the video said, it's going to be more money for them, because typically what that trap does is it traps you into, wow, when I start making more money, I can get that new car, or we could move into a bigger house, and all of these other things that basically get the clock, start the clock ticking on loans that were close to being paid off before, or you've made some progress in, and you restart the clock on that, and the payments are bigger because you can afford bigger payments, or at least you think you can. And that results in the coalition of four taking more money before you've earned it. And so when it comes to making more money, all that does is means you've got a bigger target on your back, and it's a target for bigger payments. Now, if you think for just a moment how much your gross pay, how much your net pay, your take-home pay, if you're bringing home $4,000 a month, that's $48,000 a year. Over 10 years, that's $480,000. It's $500,000 almost in take-home pay. 15 years, what is that? 480 and 240, it's $720,000. 20 years, it's almost $1 million in take-home pay. If you think about that going backwards, the idea is that between where you are now and where you're going to be is not going to be any different to where you are now and where you were 10 years ago unless you do something different today. Unless you do something different and change the trajectory you're on, because the trajectory you're on is one that's leading you to just basically being an indentured servant to everybody you owe money to. And they're going to keep manipulating you into thinking that if you make more money, you're going to work your way out. When in fact, all that money or extra money means is bigger payments and more money that is dedicated or dedicated is not the right word, but more money that is going to be earmarked for them. And so there's a couple of spreadsheets I want to spend some time on here. One of them is called the Income Replacement Factor Worksheet. There was a screenshot of it where you're going to simply put in the numbers, some pretty simple, straightforward numbers, and it's going to calculate for you how much of your gross pay you have to earn to bring home enough to just make your debt payments every year. This number could shock you, and it probably will, and I hope it does, because and Tony Robbins is famous for saying, and when it comes to wanting to create meaningful, lasting change in your life, he says you have to get really disturbed. I like to say you got to get angry, you got to get mad at what's happening, but keep that anger. And when it comes to anger management, manage it with the realization that we're going to do something about it. So in the chat, I am going to paste the link to the income replacement factor worksheet, and I am going to show you a sample of that worksheet right here. Give me just a moment to get it ready. Okay, it's a little big. Here we go. All right, so get back to being able to share my screen. And you should be able to see the spreadsheet now. Now, again, this is the sample from the book that I talked about. These are the Fortunato family numbers from the Debt Free Millionaire book that I wrote. They make $80,000 a year, and from the preparation pack, there is the withholding percentage, and this is not what your tax bracket is. I used to teach that it's tax bracket money, but then it dawned on me, well, you pay your taxes once a year, and that happens in between March and April. You're having somebody figure out your taxes, and you might get a refund, you might not, you might owe money, whatever. It all takes place once you do those calculations and find out what the IRS changes or any of those tax changes may have resulted in to that particular year. But you're paying your bills every month. And so tax season is once a year. Bill payment is a season that takes place every week of the year, depending on when your car payments are due, when your mortgage is due, when your credit card payments and student loans are due. It's happening every month of the year. And so the way to really look at how much you have to gross to bring home enough to pay your bills, all you need to do is enter in your annual gross household income, take a look at what your net pay is, and divide that by your gross pay and subtract that from the number one. Basically, that's usually around 18 to 20%. If you got a lot of dependents like me, it might be a little lower. If you are single, you're probably going to have a higher amount. The higher this number is, the more you have to gross to bring home enough to pay your bills. And then all you need to do is put in your total monthly debt payments. This isn't about the interest rates you're being charged on those debt payments. We're not calculating that. That's what we did in the last spreadsheet. This is all about how much of your gross pay is already spent before you've even earned it. And then the idea of having to make more money just means more of your gross pay it is going to be spent before you've earned it. So in this case, we have the Fortunato family making $80,000 a year. They have 18% withheld from every paycheck, and they have $2,575 in monthly debt payments for a house, a couple cars, and a handful of credit cards. That means they have $30,900. $2,575 times 12 is almost $30,900 a year is what they pay in debt payments all year long, every year. For them to bring home, based on this 18% withholding, for them to bring home the $30,900, they have to gross over $37,682 just to bring home the $30,900 that they're making payments on every year. That is 47% of their gross pay. 47% of their gross pay is you've already spent. And if these were your numbers, before you ever earn another dollar, you've already spent 47% of your gross pay, let alone how much you have to pay with your net pay. So I'm just going to go ahead and stop the share on that and see if anyone has questions about that particular spreadsheet. It's very telling when it comes to how much of your future income is already spent, roughly 50%. You're only really living on a little over a little over 50 cents of every dollar that you gross. It's pretty crazy when you think about it, but you're paying taxes on all of it. Very, very manipulative. The Coalition of Four they're in there, whether you're no matter who you're working for, no matter what you're making, they are always going to be one of the first, groups of people you pay. And it's going to cost you roughly 50% of gross income between now and when you want to quit working, if you stay on the same path you're on right now. Okay. So anyone have any questions about that? It's pretty straightforward.
Ricardo here.
Hey, Ricardo.
I retired from the government and get a retirement from them, and then I work as a pastor, which means I have to pay quarterly rather than once a year.
Okay.
Because I am paying Social Security, even though I could opt out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I add those two together, in coming up with this gross amount, I'm having a difficult time how to figure it out. And when I entered the information, I noticed that on that percentage part, you have to put that point whatever. If you just put in like 22%, it puts it at 2,200.
Oh, are you putting in 0.22 or just entering the number 22?
I entered the number 22, and when it ran it as 2,200. I had to put 0.22.
Okay. Well, yeah. Then put in 0.22. Did that straighten that out for you? Did that convert that from 22,000 to 20? Okay.
I just wanted to say
22% withholding roughly. Then is that what you're saying?
At least that's.
Yeah.
I mean, the taxes is killing me.
Yeah. How much does that mean from a percentage wise, if you don't mind sharing, of your gross income's already spent? If you don't have to share it. I know it's
I have no problem. I'm going to hit share screen.
Oh, can you just tell us the number?
47.
So 40, just like in the example.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's insane when you think about it this way. And the biggest problem with personal finance is people aren't taught how to look at it from a different angle. We're all being sold on everything that the Coalition of Four is selling us. We're all, being told it's all about the monthly payment, and they manipulate you into thinking that, hey, if you got a few $100 left over, you're doing pretty good. And the biggest lie is that just because you can afford, I got that wrong. Just because you can make your monthly payments doesn't technically mean you can afford them, because right now it's costing you 47% of your gross income. who can afford to give away 47% of their gross income? That doesn't mean you can afford it, even though you can make it. And so that's the paradigm shift that I'm hoping that you're getting, and that others that are with us today are beginning to realize, is that it's all about looking at the numbers in a way that the Coalition Afford doesn't want you to see. You know, pull back that curtain, like we said in that video. Pull back the curtain on a bunch of companies that are sucking you dry financially. Does that help you kind of, give you a different perspective on how you've been viewing your personal finances, Ricardo?
It certainly does, because I had some more complex question, and I don't think here is the time, because I do get a housing allowance
Okay.
from the ministerial stuff. So that makes it a little bit more complicated.
Okay.
And so I don't think, I don't want to take up all your time with that question. I think maybe we should talk privately.
Sure, we can do that afterwards. I'll give you a link, and we can we can connect afterwards at a time that's convenient for us and for you, and we'll work through that. That's no problem. Yeah. And that's the thing is, there's always levels of complexity to, everybody has a different, kind of situation. I call it the financial fingerprint, but the bottom line is there's usually just 3 types of cash flow. There's good cash flow, where you have, a good portion of money left over after you pay your bills, that 10% that of your net income. And we're going to get to that in just a moment. But, most financial gurus will tell you, you need to take 10% of what you bring home and put it somewhere. If you have 10% or more, that's pretty good cash flow. If you have 10% or less, depending on how much less, you're starting to get to adequate to, barely adequate. And then there are people who have poor cash flow. And I've talked with thousands of those and over the course of my career, where people don't have enough to pay their bills every month. And what that means is they're paying last month's bills with this month's money. And that's what this whole Coalition Afford manipulation can lead to, especially in a year like what we've experienced this year, where everybody starts out, everybody's excited about the coming year. It's going to be great. 2020 is going to, be the year we're going to see clearly. We're going to get 2020 vision. And then, we had this disaster hit with the COVID crisis, people losing their jobs, all of that stuff. That is why John and I have been teaching this for so long, because when it comes to how your personal finances work, you have to be prepared for the curveballs that are going to hit you square between the eyes. And so what I want to do now, and Ricardo, we'll connect afterwards, but what I want to do now is I want to get another link for you to download. It's called the Calculate Your Debt Payoff Worksheet. And I want to put that in the chat here. And while you're downloading that, I want to share with you an example of it. Let me just get it prepped and ready for us here. Just a couple minutes on that, a couple moments. Okay. All right. All these windows. Be a little. Make this fit. There we go. I think that'll work. Okay. And let's go to sharing the screen. Okay, so here's what the Calculate Your Debt Payoff Worksheet is all about. You'll see that there's a couple numbers here. We're not just about debt elimination anymore. We used to be, up until John discovered the private family banking concept, which you're going to hear a little bit more about as we conclude our workshop today. But we used to just teach debt elimination. And what we used to tell people is come up with 10% or more of your net pay and put it into our plan. Well, what we have since discovered with the private family bank is you can do 2 different things with that amount of money. At the same time, pay off debt and build tax-free generational wealth simultaneously, which, especially if you're in your 40s or 50s, since it can take 7, 8 years or so to pay off debt, you know what happens is that one of the most powerful concepts to wealth building is something called time value of money. Okay. And if you take 7 or 8 years of a 20-year period, it's about 40% of that time focusing on debt elimination. You're losing 40% of that time value of money. So the private family bank, the difference with this spreadsheet is it gives you an estimation of not only how soon you can become debt free, but also how much wealth you can have the potential of building while you're working towards that freedom at the same time. So when you put in, like in here again, your accelerator margin, the top portion is for wealth building. Once you enter this amount will automatically be calculated for you. And this is the amount that you're going to be using for debt elimination purposes. And it's very difficult to get into. I don't want to, try to give you the rocket science that goes into this, but for the purposes of calculating debt elimination and simultaneous wealth building, we're going to use the number that you see here. And how that will work is, if you have your calculator handy, what we're going to do is you're going to simply put in the name of the debt, the total balance that is owed, the minimum monthly payment. And then once you fill out those first fields on the spreadsheet, these 3 columns, the 4th column will automatically be calculated for you. Okay. And what you're going to do with this number here is then you're going to rank your payoff priority. And what you're going to do is you're going to put a number 1 next to the smallest number, a number 2 next to the next smallest number, and so on. So I'm going to give you folks a moment or two to go ahead and complete these first 3 columns and put your debt payoff priority. Just take your time. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to stop my video. I'm going to mute my microphone for a few minutes, and we're going to give you some time to figure that out. And by the way, if you have any questions, unmute your microphone and feel free to, say, hey, Tony, I got a question about something.
Tony, you have to quit sharing so we can move off of this to the other one.
There we go. And while you're filling this out, I do want you to know this is the last spreadsheet this is the last homework assignment, so to speak, that you'll have. But this is going to be the one that's really the most telling. This is where we begin to take the negative information that we've kind of been learning about, how much interest you're losing every month and how much of your gross pay you've spent before you've earned it. Now we're going to start to turn a corner and get to a place where you can start to see the positive possible future that you have. How are we doing? You folks doing well? You getting that figured out? I'll give you another minute and then we'll talk about the next part of the exercise.
For some reason, Tony, when I enter in the information on the debt elimination 10% in the first box, it flashes up there and then it just disappears.
Oh, so what you're saying, Ricardo, is that let me go ahead and make sure I can follow along with you here. When you put in the number up here, that this number is not, it pops up, but then it disappears on you? Is that what you're saying? Ricardo? Ricardo, did we lose you? Go back on screen here.
Still here, just had to switch back and forth screens to unmute.
Oh, gotcha. I gotcha. Is it working now?
Nope.
That's frustrating. Is anyone else having that problem with the spreadsheet? I have to mention this is the first workshop that I'm doing, and so some of the kinks might be there. One of the Jeff is saying that he's not having that problem, and that delete and probably try to delete it and re-download it if you want to try doing that. Let me ask you, Ricardo, when you click on that link, are you viewing it in the browser or are you viewing it in Excel?
Excel.
Okay, so
I'm viewing it like it is. I'm just clicking on it. It pops down and it pops down in Excel and then I open it.
Okay. Yeah, you should be download. It should ask you to download it, and then it opens after you downloaded it. Maybe what you can try is to once it opens after you've downloaded it, save it, and then maybe to another folder, and then reopen it from that folder, or maybe save it to your desktop so it's easy to find. That may help with, when it comes to technology, sometimes downloading documents and then, excuse me, working with them right away, right from the get-go can be a little squirrely. I know from the studio computer that when I download a document in Excel, it's asking me to log in, which I hadn't done. So I can't even edit them. So I do know that could be a little bit of a challenge. Try downloading it, clicking to download it and saving it to a folder or to your desktop and then reopening it again and see if that helps.
Tony, quick comment.
Yes.
Hey, Ricardo, when I opened that up, when I clicked on that first cell where you populate your number, that's going to be your extra payment amount each month, it doesn't look like the cell actually opens up like a normal Excel spreadsheet, but it is live. If you just click on it, and even though it doesn't look like a cursor's there, just type the number in anyway, it should work. Anyway, that's the thing I noted on it.
Yeah, if you type the number in, so go ahead, Ricardo, did that make a difference for you? The worksheets are got the formulas protected so that you can't accidentally go into a cell that contains a formula and delete it on accident or enter something else. Because when you're working in Excel, if you were to go over one of the cells in the spreadsheet that have a formula and just like hit any key, it'll replace what's in there with, if you hit like the letter Q, it'll replace the formula with the letter Q. So the spreadsheet's only allowing you to go into the cells that are requiring information. So when you go to when you put your cursor and click on that cell, if you can get that out of the way, maybe see if it'll let me change it. If I put 300 there and hit enter, it'll change the numbers. My number is 425. And so that's what it does. Hopefully that's makes a difference. The next thing you're going to do, and Ricardo, we'll connect afterwards. You know, we'll put some time together to make sure that we get that squared away for you. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to take the number one payoff priority, and you're going to take the minimum monthly payment that you've recorded, and to that, with your calculator, you're going to add this number. Now, in this case, the number here, you can see that, well, I wonder if that, oh yeah, apparently. Yeah, maybe that's the wrong spreadsheet. You shouldn't be able to edit that number. But anyway, you'll take 255 if this was your number, whatever that number is in this cell here, you're going to add that to the dollar amount for your debt payoff priority number one, which is 141. That is going to give you 396, and you'll simply put $396 into this cell, and then it will calculate how many months estimated to paying it off. And then you'll go to the debt payoff priority number two. That number two, you're going to take the 396 and you're going to add $79 to it. So 396 and 79 is going to equal 475, and you'll put it there. They'll just put 475 there. And then you're going to add this number, just like what we did for the first two. You're going to add this number. This is your snowballing payment that we use to be able to eliminate debt. But we're snowballing a smaller amount because we're simultaneously building wealth with the same total accelerator margin money. So 475 now you're going to find debt number three, and you're going to add 475 to 102, and that gives you 577. You'll enter that number there. And then you're going to look for debt number four, and you're going to have 577 added to 80. Well, 577 plus 80 is 657, and you're going to put that number right there. And you're going to continue snowballing your payment until you get to your final debt. So 657 then is added to debt payment number 5, which is up here. 452 is the car payment. 657 and 452 is $1,109. $1,109 is then added to debt number 6's minimum payment. So 1,109 and 386 is $1,495, and I put that amount right there. And you add this finally to the debt number 7, it's $1,335, and you get $2,830, and you put that dollar amount there. Hopefully that's working for you all. It's important that it does, because once you have that all completed, you'll see down here that the total amount of debt in this case is $238,000 and change. Total amount of debt payments is $2,575. When you add up all the accelerated payments, that's how much we're accelerating. And this will get the debt freedom date in about 9 years, 9.9 years, in just under 10 years. All of that's paid off. And in that same time frame, possible wealth accumulation is over $50,000. So when you think about if these were your numbers, And when you're putting your numbers together, this is what you can do while you're paying off debt, is build tens of thousands of dollars in wealth at the same time, which the old way of paying off debt, that old snowball method, which was very powerful in and of itself, now we take it to another level, because you need to do two things with every dollar these days. It's almost like doubling the amount of money that you're putting towards debt elimination, because you're getting two uses out of every dollar that you're funneling in that direction. And these are what your numbers become. Right here, you have debt elimination time frame in 7, 8, 9 years or so. You have tens of thousands of dollars in potential wealth building. How much of an impact would that have on your life if you knew you were working towards goals like these? Okay. Ricardo, were you able to make any progress, or were you kind of stuck?
I made progress.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm sorry that you're having I tell you, we used to do these things live where I could walk up to desks and help, more hands-on. But that also required everybody to leave their home, the comfort of their own home, and travel. This is a way we're able to do it from the comfort of everyone's own home. You're all able to do it right from, where you live. The disadvantage is I can't be right there to help you figure out some of these little kinky things that could take place. All right. Anybody else have any questions or comments about that spreadsheet that you have, or comments or thoughts that you'd like to share? We have one more video, and then we're going to be done with the workshop. We'll conclude with the workshop after we have our final video in the series. All right. Well, let me go ahead while you guys are finishing that up. Anybody want to share any numbers? I don't want, if you're excited about the numbers, that's, typically pretty common. Feel free to share that, you're going to be debt free in however many years, and potential wealth building equals however much. I know that when it comes to sharing information about money, it's kind of play close to the vest. That's fine. So you don't have to share if you don't want to. But I'm going to go ahead and, while we're wrapping that part up, I'm going to get the final video in the series queued up, and then we will get on with the workshop. Whoops, we double check something here. Yes. Okay.
Hi, John and Tony here again with the third video of our series, People Are Lying to You, and it's costing you a fortune. In this video, we're going to bust the stock market myth. You're going to learn the truth about the retirement savings mechanism most people are maneuvered into using, and why it's not their best option.
When most Americans invest for their retirement years, they do it through a government qualified plan like a 401k, IRA, 457, 403b, or 529 plan.
The money you contribute to one of these plans is essentially going into a tax-favored bucket. And then the investments, usually mutual funds, are inside that bucket. So where are most of those mutual funds investing your money? In the stock market, or as we call it, the shock market.
Yep, and when your money is invested in the stock market, you begin a never-ending journey of chasing rates of return. Either you or your financial advisor will say, if we could get just 1 more % gain in your portfolio, things would be so much better. And while you're chasing returns, moving money from one mutual fund to another, you try not to think about the inevitability that the market will take back that 1% and more.
The stock market experiences a 20+% correction every 3.5 years on average. And then there's what we call timing risk. That's what investors experienced in the market crashes of 2000 and 2008. We know people
Yeah.
who were set to retire in 2008 who are still working because they woke up one morning and the market had taken half their portfolio.
It was just bad timing. The market crashed, unfortunately, coincided with the time they needed their money for retirement or to just whatever they wanted to do. But it wasn't there. It was gone. They were saving for years and things were looking good. And then almost overnight, wham, gone, all of it.
This is timing risk. You need your money when you need your money, but the market won't necessarily work on your schedule. Imagine being all set to enter your post-work life or preparing to pay for junior's college education, and the market tells you, nope, not now. What do? You lose.
Warren Buffett, America's most successful investor, has 2 rules about that. You
Just
ready?
2.
2 rules. Rule number 1, never lose money. Now, rule number 2 is also really good. Don't forget rule number 1.
Exactly.
But you are losing money, and you probably can't even control whether or not you lose.
You walk into your HR department, this is how it typically works, and you tell them, I want to start putting money in my 401k here at the company. So they deduct your chosen contribution amount from your paycheck, and they give it to someone outside the company called a plan manager. The plan manager then sends your money to a brokerage firm like a Schwab, a Fidelity, an E-Trade, somebody like that. And the broker then buys individual mutual funds based on the bundle or package you selected in your 401k plan. And then finally, the individual mutual fund managers pick and buy stocks.
So you are like 5 levels away from your money, from your investment, and you have almost no control over what you're investing in and how much risk you're taking. The people on all those levels between you and your money, they don't know you and they really don't even care about you because they make money whether you do or not.
And even if you do appear to be making money between major corrections, the lost opportunity cost, and this is critical, most
crazy.
people never even heard of this. The lost opportunity cost of mutual fund and brokerage account fees being deducted from your account every 3 months can cost your portfolio more because the money is out and it's not in there growing for the next umpteen years. That can all add up to costing you more than you contribute into your fund over your entire working life. That's one reason why, according to stock market research company Dalbar Inc., the 20-year annualized return for the average stock market mutual fund investor is, drumroll, only 5.19%.
Yep.
Now that may make you scratch your head because the stock market...
Scratching my head right now.
Well, the market may have been performing really well just recently,
Yep.
but you don't invest for just the moment. You invest for the long term.
The only way you can estimate how your investment might perform for the next 20 years is to look back at the market's performance for the past 20 years, not just the past few months. And that's what Dalbar does. And whenever they examine the average mutual fund investor's annual return over a 20-year window, numbers like 5.19%, that's what they come up with.
So that's about what you can expect over time. And that 5.19% is before taxes. You're going to pay taxes on that 5.19%. So the myth that the stock market will bail you out with a prosperous retirement while you go on wasting hundreds of thousands of dollars in interest payments is just another coalition lie.
Yep.
You see, the coalition of 4 is controlled by the banks. That includes your personal and business banks and Wall Street investment banks. So while the evil banking empire keeps you distracted with your credit card, auto, mortgage, student loan, and other debts, they trick you into thinking the solution to that is to risk more of your money in the stock market where they can sweep it off the table anytime they want right into their vaults.
Like a magician, distracting you with one hand and working the trick with the other. The banks seduce you into chasing investment returns rather than focusing on recovering the hundreds of thousands of dollars you're sending to them in interest payments every month. And your reward for falling off for their trick is what? 5.19%. Are you starting to see that you're in a battle over your own money?
The banks, with their coalition partners, seduce you into funneling hundreds of thousands of dollars into them as interest payments. And then Wall Street banks, they're all in this together, trick you into risking thousands more on their stock market casino tables. You can see the result of this financial strategy in a Costco or a Sam's Club employee well into their 70s, handing out food samples or collecting shopping carts. They're still punching a clock because they fell for the Coalition of Four's distractions and deceptions during their most productive years. And now they can't stop working.
And remember, it's not because they didn't generate enough income. As we said in the first two videos, the average working household will bring home more than $1.8 million over their working lifetime.
The stock market myth is a distraction from the reality that while you're chasing 1% more return on your retirement investment contributions, the coalition is sucking 25 to 34% of your gross income out of your life through debt interest charges. No matter how you do the math, this is an equation where you will always fall behind compared to the banks.
The only way to turn the tables on that is to follow a different financial model from the one the coalition has laid out for you.
Imagine what your life would be like if you could pay off your debts and reroute those hundreds to thousands of monthly interest dollars back to you instead of the banks. And imagine if you know how to get a more predictable, tax-free return on your savings at a comparable rate to what the stock market would give you without the risk of losses right when you'll need the money.
Imagine what it would be like if you knew how to gain unrestricted, tax-free access to your own money for any reason at any time, regardless of your age. Go ahead and imagine all that, because you know what? It is possible. It is possible. That is for sure. You know, the Coalition of Four, as we said, as the video explains, is it's controlled. It's all controlled by the banks. I could go on and on about how, in early part of last century, the banking system in America was formed, and how the banking system prior to the one in America was run. Bottom line is the banks control everything. And what they control more than that control goes deep into your daily life. I mean, when you think about what motivates you to get up to do whatever it is you do every day, at the core of that motivation is your need to pay bills. It's your need to get up, generate income so you can pay the people you owe. And that core motivation, what we're trying to do is give you the opportunity to change that core motivation. One that, you know, after decades of motivating yourself to get up just so you can, you know, generate income to pay your bills, give you a motivation that you can move towards something more positive. I mean, when you look at the fact that if you're focused on a 401k, we covered that there's 5 levels between you and your money. Mutual funds are most of the time focused on taking your contributions and putting it into the stock market through a mutual fund when it comes to a 401k. I remember being at a Fortune 100 company a number of years ago and witnessing their manager share with the group of people that he managed that this company offered a 401k plan. And they said, the guy, I'm going to paraphrase, but it was really this was his understanding. He said, listen, you should be putting as much as you can towards this plan. And if you want the money to grow as much and fast as possible, you put it in this direction. If you want to be safe with your money, you put it in that direction. And that's basically what he said. And I was sitting there going, I think I'm going to have to educate these folks. And what he was talking about was equity mutual funds versus bond mutual funds. Now, both have their own place and both have their own advantages. But the bottom line is, when it comes to where your money is going, you need to have as much control over it as possible. And putting it into a mutual fund through a 401k plan gets you in a position where timing risk, is what was talked about in the video, can really be in control of your life. What I just want to take a moment and kind of elaborate on that a little bit. Timing risk is you're risking the timing in the market to determine whether or not you can achieve your goals. Okay. Does that sink in? Like the people we talked about in the video that were ready to retire in 2008, and they had the goal of decades after decades of work. They were ready to walk into retirement and benefit from the fruits of their labor, from years of blood, sweat, and years of work. And the market decided to tell them, not today. What if Junior is about to start college and the 529 plan you've been putting money away for years and years decides to fall into the same category, where all of a sudden Junior's 529 plan doesn't, which is probably in a mutual fund that's focused on equities, which is stocks. What if the market says maybe Junior needs to wait a year? This is not the type of risk you should be willing to take. And fortunately, like we said in the video, there is a way to do that that's differently. And before we get into that, I do want to touch on a couple of different things. And if anyone has any questions, please don't hesitate to interrupt me and say, hey, Tony, I say this all the time when I'm doing online trainings. I'm Italian. We've grown up. I grew up in an Italian household, and interruptions were welcome, and I welcome them here. But I do want to cover some points, but I don't want the points I'm going to cover to supersede any thoughts or questions you may have. So please feel free to just say, hey, Tony, I have a question, or I want to share a thought, while we're going through a few final points before we conclude our workshop today. One more point is that when you're being told by people who are in the investment sales position, whether they're fiduciaries are usually more trustworthy, but again, I won't get into all the details there. But when someone is licensed to sell investments, whether they're Series 6 and 63, which is the licenses required by the NASD and SEC to sell mutual funds, Series 7 is to sell individual stocks, or if they're a licensed CFP, certified financial planner, or anybody giving you plans or ideas behind what you could do with your money, they will throw a 12% rate of return at you. And they do it in a way that's very creative, put it that way. They'll tell you that XYZ mutual fund from the last 20 years averaged 18%. So let's only project your investment at 12%. At 12% comes in. Oh, hold on. Jared has got a question. He said, I was wondering, how can I let people know about these traps? I'm thinking about young parents and people just starting a new job. Jared, I'd be happy to share that with you. There are a variety of different ways you can share this content. And I'd be happy to work with you on how you can do that. But I want to focus during the time we have here with people on what they can do personally with it. And if anybody has any ideas about sharing the content, you can do that and be rewarded for it. So, but I will be happy to share that with you, maybe offline, if that's okay with you, Jared. The point with the 12%, which is what most investment strategists call them that, the reason they share that is because that's the maximum percentage amount that the NASD and SEC will allow them to project at. Dalbar Inc. says that the average 20-year annualized rate of return based on the average investor, the guy who, let's face it, if you're working at a job, has a 401k, what happens? Maybe you decide to go on, you decide you need to make more money. You see how this the coalition of four, the three videos are starting to play together. You go and you get a new job, and you're going to transfer your IRA into what's called your 401k into what's called an IRA rollover. Gosh, I used to love doing those because people with 401ks had tens of thousands of dollars they were rolling over and into an IRA. I was selling them, and guess what? Those IRAs were sold in mutual funds. They had a front end load anywhere between 4 and 6%. So if you had $100,000 that you were going to be rolling over at a 5% load, you were going to be hit with a $5,000 commission, and 95 grand was rolling over. So you just lost $5,000 in that IRA rollover, and you didn't even know it in that example. And so those types of things happen throughout your working lifetime, which is typically 30 to 40 years. And that's why the average investor only gets, according to what Dalbar Inc. has said, 5.19%. It's not that 12% that you're expecting or hoping for, but you know what? By the time you get there, it's too late to be realizing, oh, gee, I guess it wasn't what I thought it was, because your years of work are behind you, and you have your years of retirement, your retirement years right in front of you. So, you know, what you're told that the rate of return would be and what it actually is doesn't really coincide with reality. Another point is that Jack, I think his name is Jack Vogel, the guy who started the Vanguard funds, which is a very popular family of funds. He goes on and on. He passed away recently, but he has been quoted as saying, the bottom line is that the rate of return people are expecting is nowhere near what they're going to get. And this is because of fees charged in mutual funds that you're not even made aware of. And the point being is that, you know what? By the time you learn that maybe you should have done something different, it's too late. Timing risk not only can impact you in big ways, like we had just this year with COVID. I mean, we've seen the market drop 30, 40% in just days because of what happened with COVID. And it's gone up and down, and it's going to continue to do that throughout your working lifetime. Do you really want to put your retirement year funding on that kind of a roller coaster that you have no control over? And I have just a few more questions for you. How long do you want to continue to lose 40 to 50% of all of your debt payments? You've been making debt payments like a good little consumer for years, and you didn't even know that all those thousands of dollars were half of that, 50 cents roughly of every dollar you sent away to your creditors was going in their pocket before it went down to reduce your principal of the debt that you owe. How many more years do you want that to continue? And then you discovered that you have about 50% of your gross annual income already spent before you've even earned it because of these debt payments. How many more years do you want to live off of half of your gross income? Because half of it is going to your creditors and half of that is going in their pockets. Okay, so you need to really ask yourself, how many more years do you want this to go on in your life? And then the last question I have is, wouldn't you want to, if you could find a way to change all of that, wouldn't you want to become aware of that as soon as possible? Because if you do, what I'm going to be doing for you is I'm going to be pasting one final link into the chat. And that link is going to be a link where you can find my online calendar. And what you can do is simply from that, pick a time that I have already said I'm available, and you can reserve that time. And I will call you at that time that you've requested. What we'll do is we'll answer more in-depth questions about the information you've covered, that we covered today, that you learned today. And if during the workshop here, maybe you didn't have the spreadsheets working, or maybe Excel wasn't working for you, or, let's face it, you signed up for the workshop, and life, between the time you registered and today was just as chaotic as usual. And you didn't have a chance to put all the information together. If you want, fill out that preparation package, and send it to me, and I will get your spreadsheets put together for you. And then we can review them together over the phone. But you've got to click on the link, the final one that I provided, and pick a time in my calendar. And if you do that, I got 2 videos I'm going to share with you as well. It's the Banker Secret video, which is a in-depth, basically it's the Cliff Notes version of John actually explaining the ebook that you're going to receive as well. If you want the video of that, pick a time and you'll get you'll get the information on how you can view that video. And also you'll get a video that I've done called What is a Private Family Bank? Because all of the things that we're talking about here, about paying off debt, building tax-free wealth, having unrestricted access, tax-free access to funds that you put aside, money that you can use for more than one purpose. I mean, if you're not really focused or concerned about paying off debt because you've got that handled, and I do talk to people in that scenario, there's another use for your private family bank is to pay for the things that you want for today, while the money you're using for those things is still working for your tomorrow. The biggest problem people have is that they spend all of the money that they're going to earn tomorrow, they spend it today. That's what debt and credit do. I'm going to show you how you can spend today's money. You could put today's money for tomorrow and still use it for today simultaneously. That's what a private family bank will do. So I'm going to give you information on all of that. And that process will begin to turn the tables on the numbers that we covered today and help you get the future you deserve. You're going to be working for years. You're going to be getting up, as I told you before. You're motivated to get up because you got to pay bills. How would you like to have a more inspired motivation? One that your bills are going to come to an end, have a good idea when that's going to happen, and be able to take back command and control of the financial future that you are looking at right now that seems a little uncertain, but you're just doing it because you're hoping everything will just work out. How about we change that? So click on the link, pick a time from my calendar, and let's talk. All right. Let's have a final Q&A session. If anybody has questions about what we covered today, thoughts that you'd like to share, please feel free to go ahead and do that. Otherwise, I'll give you back the rest of your Saturday afternoon. Those of you who stuck around, I'm going to send you the email with the 2 bonuses. There's the Banker Secret to Permanent Family Wealth ebook you'll receive, and the Great Credit for a Lifetime ebook you'll receive. So you'll get that as well. All my contact information is there, and you'll be able to, if you want to pick a time, if you're like right now, maybe you're pressed for time, you can't look at the calendar, I'm going to send you that link as well. But bottom line is, you deserve to have the financial future that you've been working for years. You deserve to have the real one that you're going to end up with be as positive as possible. So, all right. If there aren't any questions, I'll let you get back to your Saturday afternoon. If there are, we're here for another 15 or 20 minutes. I'm happy to spend the time with you. And otherwise, we'll let you get back to your Saturday. Anybody have any questions, comments, or thoughts you'd like to share?